Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be discussing something deeply personal, which is my story of deliverance. As many of you know, I was lost in the New Age for over a decade and then turned my life to Christ. After I turned my life to Christ, I really felt like the Holy Spirit was nudging me to go be delivered from all the different spiritual strongholds that came from that life that I used to live. So today I'm going to briefly discuss what deliverance ministry is, and then I'm going to tell you step by step what happened during my deliverance session. So let's begin. So let's start with a quick overview. Deliverance ministry is a practice in the Christian faith where a believer seeks freedom from demonic oppression through prayer and the authority of Jesus Christ. Many people, actually most people who support deliverance ministry, they all pretty much believe that a Christian cannot be possessed because they belong to Christ and that their spirit is sealed. However, most of them believe that a Christian can still be demonically oppressed, especially in areas that they haven't fully surrendered to the Lord. So Alexander Pagani, the author of The Secrets to Deliverance, he wrote this: "When we accept Christ, we belong to God, but we can allow demonic spirits to gain a foothold in areas of our lives we haven't surrendered to the Lord." Now, I know that deliverance ministry is quite controversial, and I did research a lot and prayed a lot and was deeply in His Word and still am, because I did want to make the right decision. I didn't want to do anything that was not biblical. And so I sat with this a lot. However, I really felt that the Holy Spirit was, like I said earlier, just really nudging me in that way to be delivered from some demonic strongholds. Now, for me in my past, I didn't just dabble with the New Age. I was deeply involved in it. I did tarot cards every day. Most days, it was part of my morning spiritual routine, tons of manifestation rituals. I went to a spiritual healer and she opened my third eye, and she even told me, she says, "Most people, I don't open it this much, but you were just ready." I was extremely involved in these practices, and the more I was in His Word and praying, just the more I kind of felt like I needed to do this. Also, the more I've delved into how dangerous the occult is and some of the things that I did, it's really scary. And even when I get into scriptures and it's talking about, how bad and dangerous and not of God these things are, and I start thinking about my past, I really felt strongly, and I'll tell you, I'm really glad I went to do this, but I really felt strongly that there was something more that I needed to do. I am saved. I turned my life to Christ. I try to follow Him. I truly do. I try to follow and obey His commandments. There are things I'm still learning. I imagine this will be for the rest of my life. I've enrolled in a Bible college. I start that in the fall. I want to serve Him for the rest of the days of my life. However, I look at these things that I did, and how dangerous and how ignorant I was. And so this was a choice that did not come easy to me. I really sat with it because I did not want to go against what God teaches us in any way. But I am aware, because of all this research, that a lot of people are against this. So I'm just telling you in the most honest way that I can, because I do know that there are going to be people that are like, nope, this is not of God. And I hear you, and I don't know, this right now I feel that that it was the right choice. So I'm going to be sharing this story, and this is just, I wanted to explain why I decided to make this decision. And so I was in some dark things and had no idea that I was. And so I just wanted to make sure that that I was free of any of those spiritual strongholds that I might have opened myself up to. Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about my deliverance session. So I make an appointment. I found a church that had that offered this ministry, and there's a lot there that where I felt led to that church. So I ended up making an appointment, and I think I waited for this appointment a little more than a month. And so on the day of my deliverance, this church had a community center. I checked in, and right away they were like waiting for me. They led me to these two ladies, very warm ladies. They took me into a room that was it looked kind of like a living room. It was super warm and inviting. I will say I felt a little self-conscious, like when I was first there, because I was a little self-conscious, like, does everybody know why I'm there? You know, not the two ladies that they took me to, but I did feel a little embarrassed, like, are they looking at me like I'm demon possessed? Like, and just silly, but this was going on in my brain. And so we go into this room, and I sit down on this couch. They offer me water. One of the ladies, I would say she was in her 40s, and then the other one, maybe early 60s. I did love that it was both women. It made me feel just more comfortable. I wouldn't have known that would be important, but for me it was, and I'll get there as to why I think it's important to feel really comfortable with who is in there with you. So they open up with a prayer and just invited Jesus to be there with us today, and it was just a really nice prayer. And then they just listened to me, and I tell them everything that I could remember that I felt that would be significant. So, and everything spiritual, like I even started when I was 2, I had an encounter where something was in my room, and I screamed, and it was so bad to where my family felt something, and they even called a preacher to anoint my room. And I actually have, even though I was 2, I have a little blip of a memory where the pastor was putting holy water on my walls in my room. So, and then I went into the next story where I was 12, and I'm praying to God, and I'm wanting God. I'm lonely. My dad had moved away at this time, and I felt this void, and I was praying for a boyfriend. And the next day I wake up knowing that I'm going to marry a man named Brian. And so I had this knowing. So I'm going over all of these spiritual experiences because I did meet a man named Brian, and that was when I was 19. We got married 13 months later, but that ended up in heartache, and this confused me about what we were taught about God. I was always taught that God was for marriage. So if this came from God, how could this divorce happen? And so I walked them through that, and then after that, then I turned to the new age. But I'm telling them all of these spiritual experiences. I've had a lot where God has spoken to me outright. Like I've just had a lot of really profound spiritual experiences. And so I felt good, I will tell you this, to just be listened to, like just to be heard. I think that because I've had a lot of these experiences, I can't fully talk to everybody. I do have a few people that I can talk to where I can just say everything, but a lot of the times I personally feel that I'm like, okay, Lisa, don't say that. You're going to sound crazy. But I've just had a lot of these God experiences where he has come through for me. So I got to tell them everything. And these Christian women, they didn't even bat an eye. They listened to me. I felt like they're not looking at me like I'm crazy. And anyways, it was like the best therapy session you could ever have. It was just so, oh my gosh, so nourishing. And they even talked through some of the things. She got her Bible out, and she would like, oh yeah, well, this is what scripture says. And it was just so nourishing. But then, so I'm like, oh, this feels good. Like, and what I'm expecting is, I know that people can have dramatic deliverance experiences, but I was thinking that mine was just going to be like, they're going to pray over me and that'll be it. Oh my gosh. So, okay. So we do the whole thing. We do the rundown. I tell them everything. And then girlfriend gets this trash can, this little trash can, and she brings it next to me on the couch. And then she goes and gets like this box of tissues and puts that next to me on the couch. And then she's like, okay, so now before we begin, I just want to tell you, there is nothing to be embarrassed about, no matter what happens. And I'm going to tell you, I'm getting a little nervous by this. I'm like, wait, what? And she's like, sometimes like a demon might come out of you and you want to scream. And she's like, just different things can happen. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. And so I'm like, okay. And then I'm thinking of all the people that I saw like outside leading up to going into that room. There was like this guy at this desk like leading up, and I'm kind of like a younger guy, and I'm thinking like, I don't want that guy out there to hear me like, screaming up demons. And so I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen, no. So, but it freaked me out. So we stand up, they have me stand up. So one gal's on my right, one gal's on my left. The one on the right starts speaking in tongues while the girl on the left is praying. And I have my eyes closed and like my hands are like clasped, and they're just praying, and I'm just like, okay, like just, listen to the prayers. I don't know. something happened. So I can't even explain this totally, but like this girl speaking in tongues, this girl praying and being prayed over like that, I don't know. I start feeling funny. All of a sudden, my finger starts to twitch. Like it quickly like moves. And then I'm like, what was that? And then all of a sudden, like my arm like starts to twitch. And I'm like, what the heck was that? I kid you not. My body starts to tremble. Like my whole body starts to tremble. My teeth start chattering. And then at the same time, I start sobbing. And when I say I'm sobbing, like I'm not, you guys might have seen some of my videos where I say something and I'm telling a story and I'm getting emotional, but I'm talking to you guys through a camera, right? And so it's easy for me to get very intimate and it feel very safe because right now it's just me. But I actually can be a person that I can be a little, I like to cry in private. It's like I'm not really somebody that is super emotional, you know, in front of people. And I'm sobbing like it was uncontrollable, but it felt like my body shaking and the teeth chattering was separate from me crying. Like it was like I'm crying, me, Lisa, and then my body is something else. Anyways, I start then to see, I see a black snake in my, because my eyes are closed, right? I see a black snake with a really fat head. And I hear in my mind, Leviathan. And so I'm like, am I hearing this? Am I making this up? Like, so I tell them, okay? And so they're like, Leviathan, you need to get out, you know, and they're telling this, they're like, you need to get out, Leviathan. And then the gal, she's speaking in tongues and my body's shaking. And I could not keep my balance anymore because remember, I'm standing. And I'm like, I need to sit down. So I sit down on the couch and I'm just crying. Like I can't stop crying. And I feel this ache. Like I felt so sorry and emotional. Like for what I did like in my past. And then I also felt like the love of Jesus at the same time. So like all that emotion, that's what it felt like. And to hear like this prayer, and it felt so anointed. Like you're just being washed with this prayer. And it was powerful. But so then we're like on the couch and she says, Kundalini spirit, you need to leave. And my body, I didn't actually tell her that I did a bunch of yoga. I used to do a ton of yoga. I didn't tell her anything like that. I don't know. There was a questionnaire that I had to fill out before my deliverance appointment because they do want you to be a believer. They didn't say that. They asked me if I was saved and they asked questions. The reason I knew why they were asking these questions is because I read this book. It's called Soul Care by Rob Reimer, R-E-I-M-E-R. That book leads you up to the preparation of being delivered. But Deliverance ministry, they won't deliver you unless you're a Christian. Where an exorcist, if you weren't a Christian and you felt demonically oppressed or possessed, you could go to an exorcist, but deliverance ministry is for believers. I don't know if on my questionnaire I had said anything about doing yoga, but she addresses the Kundalini spirit, and she's like, Kundalini spirit, get out. And I kid you not, my body starts like it was already shaking, but it starts like really shaking. And it was as if someone was pointing like a hot iron at me, like a stick, right? Like iron, hot. And they're going like this. My back like literally goes into the couch that I'm sitting on as far back as I can go. And then I'm like pushing myself to the side, like it's as if my body was trying to get away from these ladies praying over me. And like I said, like my body is shaking. I'm completely shaking. I'm crying. Teeth are chattering. I'm even praying. And it was just crazy. So during this time where she says something about the Kundalini spirit, I see a monkey. There's a monkey looking at me with a hat on. This monkey has a hat and he's looking at me. And so I tell them there's a monkey looking at me, and then I remember there was like a monkey. I said it's a yoga monkey, and then I was trying to think it's it's one of the Hindu gods. Like I could remember it from my yoga days. I think it's called Hanuman. I can't remember totally, but like I didn't have enough connection with the Hindu gods to, like, it's not like I ever worshipped them but all of a sudden during this time that she's talking about the Kundalini spirit, this monkey is staring at me. So I tell them, and so they cast him out, and then I don't see him anymore. They did stop a little bit in the middle of this, and not total middle, like tail end of the deliverance, because she felt like there was some resistance. And then she's like, let's talk about your dad and let's talk about your husband, because both my father and my ex-husband, I have felt a rejection from. And so she wanted me, because that's the other thing in that book that I was telling you about, Soul Care. You want to, before you can be delivered, you want to make sure you have no bitterness residing in you, no unforgiveness. You want to release that and really ask God to help you to forgive. You really want to make your peace with that. And these are just, so the deliverance is for like any of the, those demonic strongholds that won't let go, but we have to do our part too. And so she wanted to talk to me about my dad and my ex-husband and like what I might be holding on to. And so she was like, are you mad at your dad? And I was like, I understand. So then it came out like, maybe I felt like angry at God for some of this stuff and maybe never let go. And she was like, that it's not God that these things happen. It's the consequence from sin. And I'm like, yes. And so I got to kind of make my peace with that. And then we went back and she went and cast it out more. And what's interesting about the experience is, so then we took a break, right? And we talked that out. But then when I went back to cast out, it's right away again, once they start doing that, my body starts shaking uncontrollably, teeth chattering. It was not me in my body doing that. But then I would take these deep exhales as they are like casting out these demons. And I just felt so much lighter. Like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how much lighter. Every time it was like, oh, lightness. So when I walked out of that appointment, it was, I can't even tell you, like, so much lighter. It hasn't even been a week since this has transpired from the point that I'm making this video. And I will tell you, oh my gosh, I just feel so much better. Like, especially in my mind feels clear. It feels so much more clear. It's the best way that I could explain it. So after our session was done, they said a prayer over my life. It was really sweet. They hugged me. They were so loving. I only felt the Spirit of God from these two ladies. I know, like I said, this is a little controversial. All I felt was the Spirit of God. The only thing they did was, cast out demons in Jesus' name. I didn't see anything or hear anything that was unbiblical. And I felt like it was the most amazing, it was the most incredible spiritual experience I've ever had in my entire life. Like it was it was amazing. So that was my deliverance session. And they told me now to, just stay in His Word, stay praying, keep worship music on. They said go through my house. If there's any items in my house that there may be something attached to it, throw it away. They even said if there was like alcohol in my house and I had a problem with that, that would be something to get rid of. So that would be something for, I'm not a drinker, and so I don't have anything like that at my house, but I thought about if it probably is different for some people that have alcohol at their house and they don't have an issue, to where somebody where a demonic stronghold is in addiction for them, that maybe they would have to get rid of that. So I thought that was interesting. They said that I could anoint my house with oil. They said that I could even take just olive oil and pray over it and then put it in like the doorways and stuff. So I found that really interesting. But yeah, it was a really, really good, freeing experience. I'm so glad I did it. I'm so grateful to God. I love Him so much. And yeah, I feel really good. So if you have any questions about deliverance ministry, please feel free to comment. You can even privately message me if you want. Because it took me a long time to make the decision if that was something I should do. Always, we need to just go to God and pray to Him. He's the one that knows, and we can ask Him to, put it on our hearts, what it is that He wants us to do. So that was my deliverance session, and I feel really good about it. Thank you guys so much for being here and allowing me to share my story. If you are contemplating deliverance, or if you don't even know what you think of it, Soul Care by Rob Reimer, as I mentioned before, is a very, very good book to read on that. Alexander Pagani, he's got that book that I mentioned as well, The Secrets to Deliverance. His book he definitely uses a ton of scripture, and he is, all about deliverance. He's a deliverance minister, and so he can tell you a lot about it. Rob Reimer is also a pastor and a deliverance minister. I feel like I would start with soul care, because soul care actually prepares you to let go of bitterness and really forgive, and then you can go deeper into what deliverance ministry is with Pagani's book. So I would start there. Always stay in his word. Go to God for everything. Make him your, really where you get though your guidance. Show me, ask him to expose the truth to you. And just go to God for everything that you need. And if there's anything that needs to be surrendered to him, ask him for that too. And thank you again. If you like this video, I ask that you please click the little like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, I'd so appreciate you doing so. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you have the most beautiful day. God bless.